Hi, and I'm at bowling. So maybe you can hear me along with the music and the bowling balls in the background.
Hi, everybody. It looks like Anne's out and about also. We're just waiting on a few more people before we can get started. Paige, I did put in the chat, and I also emailed you and Vanessa the link to the YouTube Live. Stephanie, if you don't know, since this is a meeting of our Committee on an Academic Policy Board, it is a public meeting. So in case we do have people show up, we're not recording the session at all, but people may be popping on our YouTube channel just to catch up and see what's going on.
Hello.
Hey, Vanessa.
I only know one person for sure who said they can't come, so we'll give people a couple minutes to get logged in.
I do want to introduce everybody who's here to Stephanie Burgun. She is a head teacher with the True God School District. She, I believe, currently runs their Voyage to Excellence, which is kind of part of their secondary CTE program. As long as I've known her, she's been with the True God School District, so probably at least 20 years or so.
Yes, which is crazy.
And she does have a student that attends an ASD school. So even though she doesn't work for the Anchorage School District, she is somewhat familiar with the district and sort of how elementary schools run. So I did ask her to come and meet with us tonight because she, with Chugach School District, works with standards-based model in all of their schools, K through 12, right?
Yes.
And so I'll let her, if everybody would kind of go around and maybe introduce themselves and let her know what your role is and maybe what your interest is on this committee. That will kind of give her an idea of who she'll be talking with tonight, and then she can start sharing some information about herself.
I can start.
Okay, go ahead, Vanessa.
Sorry. I'm Vanessa Hall. I'm a parent seat on the Academic Policy Board and am the chair this year. And I have a 5th grader who's been in since kindergarten and a 2nd grader who's been in since kindergarten. And I am interested in this committee because I really want my kids to have a continuation of our program in a smaller school setting for middle school.
Hi, Stephanie. I'm Mindy Edison. I am the 6th and 7th level teacher at Eagle Academy. I've been here this is my 15th year. I am on this committee to help advise with curriculum and moving standards from 6 to 7 to 8, but also listening to our families go from our school to middle school and how there just isn't the challenge continuing and wanting to see that. So I would like to be able to see that as a reality for our families that want to maintain an academic focus.
Wow, that was nicely said, Mindy. My name is Paige. Sorry for the bowling in the background, but my son's practicing for junior gold tournament this summer. So if you hear a lot of bowling while I'm talking, I'll try to keep it short. But anyway, so I'm on the academic policy board as well with Vanessa and Mindy. I'm the vice chair. My daughter is in 5th grade, and she's been there since 2nd grade. And very similar to what they've said, you know, my son went through a middle school in the Anchorage School District, but just a standard middle school, and he's done fine. But I would definitely like to see something more, you know, smaller and more cohesive and in line with the academic rigor that we have already going on at our school. And super excited about some of the options we've been coming up with. And the opportunities we can provide for our kids. Just want to make sure we're on the right path to do that. I also sub in the schools too, so I get to teach and all that stuff too. So yay.
Okay, I can go next. My name is Ann Palucci. Sorry for any extra noise. I'm at soccer practice right now. I have a 6th grader and a 5th grader, and then a kindergartner actually at a different program right now, but considering moving her over to Eagle Academy. We are a military family that's opted to stay in Alaska for forever. And I'm also an ASD teacher. So I really like what Eagle Academy provides as far as instruction and academic rigor, especially considering I teach at a school that isn't that way. I mean, they provide what they can, but it's not as rigorous. But then my 6th grader will go to Mirror Lake next year. And while it's a great school, I'm very nervous. So, but more than anything, I sit on this committee because I'm nosy and I'm curious, and I'm really hoping that at least my 5th grader will get to stay. So that's just me.
Okay, I'm Amy Mitchell. I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader that have both been there since kindergarten. And same with everybody else. I love the program. I'd love to see it continue on into 7th and 8th grade so that they can take a running start at high school.
Hi, I'm Paula Ayojak, and I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and next year I'll have a kindergartner. And I have older kids that did go to middle school, and I just felt like I had one go from Eagle Academy to middle school, and I just felt like he was a little bit more advanced. And so I do like the philosophy and the curriculum that Eagle Academy offers. And I just also enjoy the smaller classroom. And so I am on this committee just to be more aware and a little bit more proactive and try to help move it along.
And I think that was everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet all of you. Like I was introduced as, my name is Stephanie Burgoon. I've been with Chugach School District for I just figured it out, 18 years. I was 11 years in Whittier, where I was the principal teacher and it's K-12 school, obviously. It's little, but I taught middle school and high school there. And then I moved to Anchorage to take over, or I shouldn't say take over, that's such a terrible way of putting it, to be the principal teacher at our Voyage to Excellence program, which is a residential program. So our kids come in from rural areas, we're statewide, so our kids come in from rural areas and live on our campus, and we do CTE. I'm really sorry. My dog is scratching to get in and my son will not come and let him in. So I'm just gonna go open the door real quick. And we're just gonna leave the door open so the dog can come in and out. Sorry about that. So yeah, so I've been before I was in Chugach School District, I was actually out in Iditarod area school district and taught in Anvik and Grayling and McGrath. And back when I was there, they were also performance-based. And then they lost that program, I don't know, 2 or 3 years after I left. But that's all I've taught in my entire time in Alaska is in standards-based, performance-based education. So it is interesting. Then I have a son who is a 6th grader over at Spring Hill Elementary, and you know, in a ASD, very traditional classroom. So his teachers love me because I am constantly like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And some of them are okay with me, and some of them are like, oh my gosh, is he almost out of my classroom so I can move on from this? But I'm a huge believer in performance-based education and standards-based education. And like I said, we've been doing it through 12th grade for forever. So I'm very familiar with how to do a standards-based program with older students. So so I commend you first for considering going from being considering bringing 7th and 8th grade into the fold. I'm right at 7th and 8th grade that you're looking at bringing in. And you know, I'm more than happy to answer any questions or anything, but you know, basically what I can tell you is that the 7th and 8th grade performance based doesn't look really any different, right, than the elementary standards based. And one of the things that, you know, I know is always a big concern is what happens when they get to high school and they go to, you know, Chugach, or they go to, you know, wherever they're going to go to high school, Bartlett, or I'm trying to think of who are all you feed in up there. That concern of, okay, how do I go from being performance-based, where my student has spent all of this time knowing these are the standards I have to meet, this is what I need to do to meet them, and not really getting that A, B, C, D, F, but instead being scored. And we are very similar to you. We just do emerging, developing, proficient, and advanced. So that's what our scoring system looks like, which can be, you know, translated very easily to 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have a lot of students that do move from, like, example in Whittier is very transient. So we have a lot of students that move from maybe that middle school in Anchorage, they come and see us, they're with us for, you know, maybe a couple of years and they go back to Anchorage, and sometimes they come back again. So there's always been that transient with us. And honestly, we have not ever had a huge issue with other schools taking our report card or us taking their report card. I mean, obviously it's easy for us to take somebody else's report card. I often get phone calls. I'd get phone calls from high schools like, what does this mean? But once we, you know, explained it and talked about what that means, they were actually really grateful because they understood a lot more about what that student knows and what they're ready for. There's also, I know, it's been a lot of questions about what does that look like for colleges. And I know that y'all aren't maybe thinking about that quite yet. And maybe, you know, but there are 8th graders who take, you know, that are in levels that are credit bearing levels. And we're able to do that conversion very easily, especially, you know, we have a lot of 8th graders now that are taking Algebra 1, which is obviously a credit. Our Algebra 1 is consistent with our math level 9. And we have 7th and 8th graders who are advanced students that are plowing through, and some of them, when they transfer out, are now getting college credit as, high school credit, because they were in a standards-based system, and that's how that conversion works. We're able to convert that pretty easily. So, our upper levels look very similar to our lower levels. In all of our content areas, we have 10 content areas in our district: reading and writing, math, science, social studies, kind of the ones everybody has, personal social service, career development, technology, cultural awareness. Oh, I forgot one. Career development. I don't know if I said that, but we have, and those count as electives. So we have, our main ones: reading, writing, math, science, social studies, and then the rest, and PE health, which also counts as a core curriculum class. And then when we do our transfer, we transfer the rest of those in as electives. We are able to easily transfer that into a GPA, which is often a concern, especially when you're doing any sort of academic, honor society, anything like that. So we are able to transfer for 7th and 8th graders proficiency and advanced scores into a GPA so that they can see what that looks like. Does anybody have questions about what that looks like, or how, or is there burning questions that you would like to know about having a standards-based system in a middle school or high school?
Well, I know one of the things we talked about was kind of what you just said, because we were hoping to do like a foreign language for our kids. And our 2 high schools up here in Eagle River are Chugiak and Eagle River High School. And both of those offer German, Spanish, and French. And so if we offered one of those languages and the student took it for both 7th and 8th grade, and they got a certain grade in it, then they could take that credit up to high school and have it count. But we were like, okay, are they going to go, if we do just standards based 1, 2, 3, 4, will they take that? Because we've always had issues with that before when we've been sending our 6th graders off to middle school for their math leveling or whatnot. And so that was where we were like, should we try to do a combined 1, 2, 3, 4 and a grading scale ABCD, or is there a way to do 1, 2, 3, 4 and still be able to communicate the students getting this credit when they go to high school, if that makes sense?
Absolutely, it does. And it's something that we have done our best to find solutions for, because it is, like I said, if you don't stick with us kindergarten, or if you don't with us through graduation, you transfer out, there has to be some way to transfer that learning that's happened. So yeah, like I said, with the algebra, we also do that with foreign language. We are able to kind of substitute that in for another elective. We have a credit conversion chart, and I was trying to find it. I can't find it, but it basically just is, if for us, a proficient is basically counts as a B, an advanced counts as an A. So if the student, and for us, proficiency is 80%. So we still, just like anybody else, we, especially it's, a little easier with things like math and stuff, but we have rubrics that this is proficient, this is advanced. If you score all proficient, you have the opportunity to redo that assignment if you want to move it up to an advanced. If you are happy with the proficient, you can keep the proficient. And then that is translated over for a grade. Advanced is A, proficient is B. We don't really transfer over developing, which would be like a 2. We haven't transferred that over just because it goes against our core beliefs that you don't move on unless you're proficient. So to give credit for something that's not proficient we struggle with that. That can sometimes cause some anguish, because if you are taking, for example, if you're taking a foreign language, you're struggling with it, but you're still doing enough to pass. Do we transfer that as a C, or what does that look like? And we've really let our teachers make that determination in a lot of ways. but for the most part, everything is 80% proficiency, and then we'll transfer that over as to that kind of grade. Did that answer your question? Well enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vanessa can help talk on that too, because I know we've just been talking about it a whole bunch about trying to figure out what the best thing to do is. And it'll really too become having to talk to the high school's, I guess, counselors or whoever accepts the students when they come in, like what works for them. And because I know, like, Mindy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that she takes percentage grades as well as the standard grades. So it, you know, are they going to be okay with what she's collected as when they're in 7th and 8th grade? So
it is a struggle. I won't lie to you, there was a time about, oh gosh, 15 years ago, when we were having that same conversation about how do we reconcile these two things, students leaving, going to high school, having transcripts, that sort of thing. What do we do? And there was a time period where we tried to do both. For us, it didn't work. Not to say that it doesn't work for anybody, but for us, the workload on the teachers to try to do two different systems, and it was just really confusing for our students, to be honest with you. They struggled with it as well. And you know, for the most part, our students in Whittier and at Voyage School have really, the ones that have come from traditional programs have relished in the fact that, okay, I have my list of standards. I know what I have to do. I know how to do this. And they've learned the system well enough that when you try to kind of box them into that grade, they get a little irritated. So, you know, I think if for those kiddos that really understand how it works and can make that system work for them, and let them take control of their learning, that's really helpful for them. And trying to run two systems was just too much for us. So we stuck with standards-based and then found ways to transfer that information to high school and to college. Not to say I haven't gotten a couple of phone calls. I mean, like locally, not so much, but you know, I've got our kids that go out of state. I've gotten some phone calls of like, what is this? Because our transcript does look very different, but it has a GPA, and we're able to do a conversion GPA, and that's you know, a lot of times what they're looking for more than anything else.
So again, so then how do you do that? How do you convert your 1, 2, 3, 4s to a GPA? Because, you know, if we're, you know, Deanne had sent out something earlier about National Junior Honor Society and another organization that they're all GPA based. So how would you have suggestions for that?
Yeah, no, so that's when our advanced scores, our A's, and so when a student moves out of a level, we look at it as a body of work, right? So for example, let's use reading, because I'm an English major by trade, and that's kind of my thing. So if we're looking at English language arts as a whole, we have end of level tests that students take. So when they're ready to move out of a level, then they take those end of level tests, but that's not the end all be all of what their score will be for the level, right? It's a body of work. So we look at how they've done throughout the standards. They have to pass the end of level test with an 80% or higher. And then we can make that determination whether it's an advanced score or a proficient score. And like I said, I've had students before that they got proficient and they're like, yeah, I'm not happy with that. And I was like, okay, well, if you're not happy with that, what are you going to do to make it advanced? And they went back to work and to get that advanced score. So then it's we have a really nifty computer program that I just have to plug it in and it spits it out for me. Thank goodness. I used to have to do it by hand many years ago. But basically, like I said, proficients count as B's, advanced count as A's, and we have been told before, and I get it, they're like, well, then nobody gets below a 3.0. Yeah, you're right. Nobody gets below a 3.0 in our system because they're working towards proficiency constantly. And so they don't move on until they're proficient. So you get at least a B. which some of our students absolutely love because they're like, sweet, my GPA went up. But they put in the work, and I think that's the important thing to remember is it's because they've put in the work, and because they're moving at their own pace. And so those students who are working and moving forward are moving through those levels a little bit faster than maybe some of the students that just aren't ready yet.
Okay, so I just need some things clarified. It sounds like then as you're moving into middle school and high school that you're moving away from direct instruction.
Very much so, yeah. And we're not much of a direct instruction district. We're very project-based.
Okay,
So we do have direct instruction, don't get me wrong. And so, for example, and I've always taught, and I know it looks different, but I've always taught in multi-grade classrooms.
okay,
So I've had, anywhere from 7th through 12th grade in one room at a time, right? So I might have 20 some odd kids, but they're, 7th through 12th graders. And so they're all in different levels. So it's not to say that direct instruction goes away, because it doesn't. We all know that that's best practices, is to have a balanced instructional model. So I will pull some kids, we're doing direct instruction, while my other kids are working in projects at their levels. And then we're, moving around a lot. When I'm in, when our school got bigger and we were able to bring on more staff, then I was able to say like, okay, I'm only teaching like level 7 reading during this time. And then I'm teaching reading level 6 at this time. So we were able to kind of group those students a little bit more easily. But no, we're very project-based, but there is still direct instruction. There's still, practical application, all the things to, I struggle with, folks that are like, I don't do any direct instruction. I'm like, well, I don't know how you're teaching then.
coming from us where we're nothing but direct instruction, I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna look. So, okay, that answers that question. Your report cards, I get the, your codes are very similar to our 1, 2, 3, 4. What do your standards look like? Do you just have like reading and then writing and spelling, or do you have standards underneath those?
I can show you, because I think I can screen share, right? You made me.
I believe so.
So if you give me,
I added you as a co-host so you can share your screen.
So I will, I just had the standards open earlier, so they're sitting right here on my desktop. So we're in luck. So if we pull up like reading, for example. This is our graduation level, which is reading level 8. And it looks like a lot of letters and stuff, but this is our connection to the Alaska State Standards. We have 2 columns in our standards. We have process targets, and then we have our content targets. Our process targets look basically the same, whether you're in level 1 or you're in level 8. This is graduation level, like I said. So this is high school. It's divided into accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. I'll go to a lower level. It might be, so level 5 is kind of like, oh, sorry. I'm like, why is my computer going so slow? Level 5 is more upper elementary, middle school-ish, more upper elementary. So that might be a better one to look at. So yeah, so the way our standards are written, like I said, accuracy, fluency, and comprehension are our strands that we're looking at. And then we have very specific targets within those strands that students are working towards.
Okay, and then do you issue a grade for each strand and then like an overall grade for reading, or just a grade for each strand?
So the way that we do it is we look at it per target. And if you give me just a second, I can load up our grading system, it's like our, So we use something called AIMS. It's built in-house. So there is student information on here. But I'll share students that I know I'm comfortable with sharing. Sharing. Ugh. Let's see, who's a good one? Trying to think of a good, oh, I know who I'll do. She won't mind. It's one of our teacher's kids, so I know she'll be okay with it.
Got it.
So this is math. And so the way that we score is, let's look at math 7.1, computes unit rates and scale, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So she scored an advanced within that target. They used practical application. If we look at this one, maybe this is a little bit, you can also see under the comments that this is what they use to score that. So there was a textbook lesson, there was a skills assessment. You don't have to fill that out. We have some teachers that are really good at it. Not gonna lie, I was never very good at it. But I might just include what book we were reading or whatever, or what short story we did, and then has the date that it was scored. So that is for all of the targets. So each target is scored. And then you can see like right here, the student is developing in statistics, the statistics and probability standard. So she has not yet, so she's developing in this level, but she's almost got everything done. She's got a couple, 3 targets that she still has to meet. She took a content skills. She did not pass it. So in fact, probably my guess is that this was the one, it was in 2019. So she probably took this as a, what do you know? What do you still need to know kind of thing. And then we have performance assessments, which are basically like projects that goes to that project base. So it's a project that we did. And then the analyticals, which are word problems. Okay, so then they have to pass assessments in all of those. So that's how, for example, for math, if we look at reading, it's the same thing. We have direct instruction, practical application. Was it an interactive simulation? Was it a real life experience? So for fluency, it's rehearses and reads aloud with expression from a variety of genres. She's developing, but in the comments, you can see that there are some of what she has read. And they read those as a class. So there was a lot of direct instruction involved in that. There was reading it as a class, having the discussion, doing all of the things. And so after she scored either proficient or advanced in all of those, she'll take the assessment, and then she'll be scored on that. So it takes an average, basically. I mean, our computer system will do it where it'll take an average of all of the standards and the assessments and decide whether it's a proficient or advanced score. However, as teachers, we have the power to override that. So, if we feel that that's not an accurate depiction of how that student did, we have the power to say, nope, I believe that she was advanced in this, and change that whole level to an advanced score. And, they don't care much until they get to about middle school, high school. Then they're like, wait a minute, that's my GPA.
Right.
And they start to care a little bit more.
So where is the GPA in this? Sorry, Mindy.
Go ahead.
Let's see. This is our standards to credit transcript. Sometimes they take a while, so that's why I'm like, I'll see if I can.
Oh, that's fine. I just wasn't, because it looks like you're just doing it's like your standards based 1, 2, 3, 4. You're developing proficient,
Yes.
advanced is what you primarily use, and then you convert to a GPA when you're needed to, but it's not like something that you're advertising to the kids all the time, kind of thing, like on a report card or whatever.
Yeah, no. What they worry about is what are the standards that I need to meet? how do I meet them? And that's their primary concern, is what are my standards and how do I meet them? They don't, like I said, really start worrying about grades yet, because that's just not part of their, it's just not part of their system, for them. However, when we do have students that come from like ASD or the Valley or anywhere that does a grading system, they ask, we have those answers for them. And so they're a little bit more cognizant of what that looks like on a GPA.
Now, is this program open to students, I'm assuming, and parents?
Yes. Yeah. So it obviously, they're not like, I can as a teacher and as a principal, I can go in and manipulate all of this. But they also, all students and all parents have logins, and so, or logins, and so they can get on here at any time and see, okay, what standards have my students met? What have they not met? And how are they meeting them? So that's one of the really things that I love about, this system, is it gives really the opportunity for parents and students to be much more actively engaged in their children's education.
And as a teacher and a principal, I mean, are your parents logging on quite a bit to see what their child needs to do? Do they understand the program?
We do a lot of educating. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
We do a lot of, every time we have new students come into our system, there's like a whole onboarding, right?
Right.
It's very difficult, especially if you're coming from a traditional system, for parents and students to understand. So we do a lot of onboarding. We do a lot of conversations, a lot of conferences. We have some parents, it's just like any school, we have some parents that are on it, and they're the ones that are emailing teachers saying, so I noticed that my child hasn't been updated. And then we have some parents that we have a parent teacher conference, and they're like, I've never seen this in my life. And I'm like, no, I've shown this to you a few times, but okay. So it goes both ways. But it's funny, because we used to have this in binders, right? Like before we had this system online, because like I said, I've been with the district for almost 20 years. We just had a white binder with pieces of paper in it. And we had to do it all, by hand.
I remember those days.
And you know what? I almost liked it better. It was a lot easier to say, go pull your binder.
Yeah.
Let's open it up than to do this. But I gotta go with the times, right? Oh, look at that. It finally loaded. Maybe. We'll see if it will open. Nope. There it is. So this is what our transcript looks like. So for this particular student, you can see how it switches over. It'll say credits earned from CSD, which is Chugach School District, credits earned from other districts, and then total. The quarter credits, because we get a lot of questions about why in the world would you have a quarter credit. If you are developing in a level for more than a year, our district has made the determination that you have put in enough time and effort that you didn't get the whole credit, but you got a quarter credit. Very rarely does that ever transfer to Anchorage School District or anywhere else. So it doesn't really matter. But that you can see from here, math level 7 translates to pre-algebra. So, and that's why it's a quarter credit, is because she's been in that level since May of 18. She probably has very little to finish, but she needs to finish. But you can see like technology level 5 was an advanced score. It was a half a credit, and that would be an elective. So that's what it looks like. So it looks like a kind of traditional transcript once we switch it over. But we're able to do that pretty easily. So my guess would you'd be able to do that same thing with students who were leaving out of 8th grade who met those requirements to put when they go on to onto high school.
Okay, I have one last question, and then I'll let other people talk if they want to. So the school district you're in right now, they do standards from K through 12, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then if I'm understanding correctly, you said, like a proficient is 85%, which is really a B.
80,
And
80%. Yeah.
and then an advanced is really an A,
Which
you
is
know,
90%. Yeah.
90%.
Yeah.
Okay. Why didn't you just stick with the letter grade? Because I mean, it's easier. Parents understand it. That's what they went to school with.
Right.
I mean, I get with, K through 12, if you're all standards based, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But we're in like a little school and nobody else is standards based. Everybody else is just traditional based grading. And I just want to know why you guys chose to do your letter scores versus just a traditional A, B, C, D, F score. If you're just using the same criteria, but just calling it a different name.
Right. So it didn't start off that way. I will tell you that. When we started off with kind of this idea of proficiency and advanced, it didn't start off with these 80% and 90%. It really was, did they get it? And can we show that, do we understand that they got it? And how well did they get it? Right.
Right.
Over time, and I think that's exactly it, is kind of what you said, like traditionally that's how it was. And over time, we had the I wouldn't say it's a problem. We had parents asking that same question. We had students asking that same questions, and we had teachers asking that same question. And I think part of it was just like a comfort level of saying, okay, if I can attach a number to this, that makes it more, quantified, and that makes me feel better that I can give this score. It was really our math people,
Right.
math and science people. They were like, I need a score. Us humanities people were kind of like, I'm okay with looking at a rubric and deciding, yeah, that looks proficient to me. And in all honesty, in all of our humanities, we really only use rubrics. We don't even, I haven't, when I'm looking at reading, writing, math, social studies, that sort of thing, I'm only using rubrics, and I'm not even looking really at percentages or anything like that. So it was really our math and science people that felt very strongly that they needed some percentage to hold on to.
Hey, us math people are typically type A people, so I'm going to stand up for my people here in the math department. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I was like, not to dog on the math and science people. And not at all. I just think that it was also a way for us to have to try to have our students kind of get away from that failing. I'm failing this. It's an F. I'm a C student. I'm just average. And there's nothing wrong with average. But to get away from those mindsets and that mentality, and if we could say, hey, you're developing at this, because we did. Chugach School District had the lowest scores in the state. Like, we were way, 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 way bottom. And once we kind of were able to have that conversation about standards and that mind shift, you could see how it helped students, especially some of our struggling students, to really say, okay, I'm developing, I'm gonna get this, I'm working at it. And then to be able to say, hey, I'm proficient, I got it, I understand it now. Not to sound very, touchy-feely kind of thing. But it was for our students and for our staff a way to change the mindset about education in general and learning in general. I mean, to be quite honest with you, that's what it came down to. Our kids were really, really, really struggling. And this was a way to help switch the mindset. And so that's why we chose those words and that language. In fact, if you are below developing, like if you just get into a level, you're emerging. And it was just this kind of idea of like, all right, this is brand new to you. This is brand new. So it's okay to be struggling and to be frustrated. And then we move into developing after that. So I don't know if that was a great answer to your question, but I know that's
It
kind of the
was.
mindset that we were in when we were making those decisions.
And
Yeah, I
off,
appreciate
sorry,
it.
off of that, are you more giving the kids like the percentage in the GPA? You're not like hanging up in the classroom like 3 equals 80%.
No,
What you're
absolutely
presenting to
not.
them are these
Right.
standards and what they scored in the standards. So the
Yep.
conversion is truly just a conversion to give another school. It's not
Absolutely.
so tied that the kids are like 4 is A.
Yes.
And so, okay.
No, that's exactly right. In fact, I don't even know how many of them actually know how that works. To be honest, they're just like, hey, I'm proficient, or hey, I was advanced. It's not until they get much older that they kind of make that, oh, okay, now I see how, that works. But yeah, no, we don't, we celebrate being developing, because that means you're learning, and we celebrate when they pass a level, and either whether it's proficient or advanced. Those are all celebrations. And we celebrate when they pass targets sometimes, because sometimes you have a target in there, a standard in there that they're just really, really struggling with, and they may have passed everything else, but they've got like 1 or 2 that they're really struggling with, and so then we really celebrate that.
Thanks.
If you want to look, so I showed you reading, I kind of showed you math a little bit. Like I said, we have our electives like personal social service, and that looks a little bit different because it's very much like teamwork, leadership, life skills, that sort of thing. That's obviously what I spend a lot of time on. Whoops, because those are so planning service projects, and so they're still scored within those, and they get proficiency, proficient or advanced within the social skills, conversations, group interactions, that sort of thing. Any other questions, like just specific things that we do or how we do that?
Can I see the top part of your Excel sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of looking at this as I'm thinking about the 7th and 8th grade.
Uh-huh.
So the middle part is your standard,
Yes.
and then the far right part is all the resources you use.
Yeah, so that is one thing, and I don't know how you guys work, but we were just having this conversation today actually with my superintendent. We have a lot of freedom in what we're able to use as resources. We do not have any mandated curriculum at all.
Okay.
We can, we choose what we feel is best for our students and for our, for our own teaching styles. So we do have this list of resources, because we do have teachers that are, brand new to teaching, that walk in, and when we are like, well, we don't really have a mandated curriculum, they're like, freaking out.
Yeah.
So we try to provide that as okay, yes, we don't have a mandated curriculum, but here's all the things we do have. And then, if we need to, we walk in and say, hey, we think that this year, this would be the best curriculum for you to use, until they're more comfortable choosing one.
Got it. Okay. So these are just things within your district that they could use.
Yes, none of it is mandated.
Got it. And then tell me again, the left-hand column, it's
So that's our
Process.
process. Yep, those are our process targets. So if we look at math, and those are ones that tend to stay throughout all the levels. You know, they definitely sorry, I don't know about y'all, but I can't see anymore worth anything. I turned 45 a couple of years ago and now I can't see anything. So this is level 3, which would be, you know, early elementary. But we still have the problem solving steps, which is our process targets, and then the content targets. But then those process targets, you know, change as they get older and we move up in the level so that they become more, you know, right here it's teacher and students discuss, and then we take the teacher out of it and have the student. So
Okay.
but each level has process and content, and students are scored in process and in content. We try very hard for them to understand that both of those, they're both of equal importance. Most of our kids are like, nope, I'm just worried about the content. And I'm like, well, because you're doing the process. But
Right.
they don't like to look at it.
Now we have our process and content intertwined. So I just, that makes more sense to me when you showed the math, because I'm a math person, and I'm like, oh, problem solving and reasoning. Okay, I get it. Yeah, okay.
And it was really just, you know, honestly, to make students just be more aware of their own thinking.
Right.
Right. You do that in math. We do it in, you know, we do it in language arts, you know,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
yep. What is your writing process? What is your reading process? All those things.
About how many students do you have in your district that you're serving?
So our schools are very small. I'm not going to lie. Whittier is our biggest school. In K-12, they're at about 50 right now.
Okay.
We also have a huge homeschool population, and that's a majority of our students. So we're a statewide homeschool program. So we have over 400 homeschoolers. Then we also have Tititlic and Chenega Bay, and Tititlic is about 20 students K-12, and Chenega Bay is every year trying to hang on with their 10.
Got it.
Chenega Corporation is like, hey, you want to move to Chenega? Do you have school age children?
You hire teachers that have big families.
Exactly. Which is funny because last teacher we hired didn't have any kids, and I was like, what are we doing? But yeah, they're hovering right at 11, I think, right now. But then, like I said, we have homeschool offices in Valdez, Fairbanks, Anchorage. Yeah, so we're a little bit of everywhere. And then I teach, like I said, at our residential program. So I get to see everybody, which is kind of lovely for me. Having been in Whittier for 11 years, now they all come to me. And then we also work with other school districts. So we're a statewide residential school. So we partner with other rural school districts, which is nice because I get to see kids from all over the state.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Don't worry, Deanne, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, I haven't had students since last March. So
Oh,
yeah, I am desperate. We're hoping September we can get back, but all of our villages are still on travel bans. And so, yeah, we're hoping for September. Fingers crossed.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. I was so happy in January when we could go back to the classroom.
Yeah. I was too for my child. He needed it. That whole rolling out of bed and getting on Zoom thing.
Yep.
It was rough.
Tell me about it.
It's been a year. Anybody else have any questions? Well, as you're going through this process, if you do have any questions or anything, you know how to get in touch with me. And so please do. I answer email pretty quickly. Usually I was out of state last week, so I was a little off the grid there for a little bit, but I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions, or if you know, you want to have another Zoom call. I'm always open for that. Just let me know. And I'll stop sharing so you can stop staring at our standards.
Well, Stephanie, I can't thank you enough for getting on and sharing everything that you've gone through as a teacher and a principal. It just helps me understand more, as I've gone through it too, to hear, you know, we've gone through similar things. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I think it's really important that as standards-based, performance-based schools and districts, that we continue these conversations, because there's not a lot of us. And but I firmly believe in my heart that it is the best way for our kids to learn. And it is the best environment for our teachers to teach in. So I'm a huge believer in it. So, you know, I love to see other parents and teachers and principals that understand performance-based education, but we just got to keep talking to each other. That's super, super important, because we've all asked the same questions and been through the same processes, I guarantee you.
Yes.
Well, again, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your information with us tonight. It's really nice to know that there are other people out there doing, you know, what our school is doing, and we've seen a lot of success for our kiddos in K through 6, and so that's sort of kind of the impetus for wanting to continue on for 7 and 8, and then wondering, you know, how do we make that process work for the middle school? And since I knew you were still in Chugach, when I don't think Cuspbuck is doing that, because I think they moved away from that shortly after I moved out of that district.
Yeah.
So not too many people left.
No, it's Lake and Penn School District and Chugach School District are the only districts, I think, in the state that are still district wide. Isn't that crazy? Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I'll let y'all go back to your meeting. And again, if you, any questions, anything that comes up, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you.
Well, I hope that was helpful.
Well, it was to me. I had a bajillion questions.
I think it was helpful if we can, I mean, I don't know what the district report card side looks like. How would we set up something like a conversion if that's what we wanted to do?
So it will take a lot of work for the IT department to help us create a report card. But when we do that, we can try, or I can try to talk with probably, I believe, Yulia Fleckenstein, who does a lot of the coding and the writing for the programs, to maybe add a little conversion formula in there for us.
Okay.
You know, the nice thing about continuing on with those standards and then having the accumulation of all of the sub, I guess, learning targets in there would be having all of the assignments and the letter number grades for those, and then the end of course assessment added in there to come up with a GPA. But we probably want to talk about, do we want to show that on a report card, or do we want to just have that available for our own internal purposes and for when students transfer out to another school or district that has a question about a grade point average.
And I'm guessing we want to give everyone time to think on it, not decide right now.
Probably. I mean, that would be a little bit more complicated than just, creating a report card with the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And how much information is information overload, or how much work are we going to want to do to have to onboard parents and understanding the difference between the two, or how the two complement each other.
I wonder if we could add it to sort of our, like how we have that scalding class that we sort of ask our parents to do if they're new to our school. I wonder if we should sort of start, and it would be good for even our K-6 families too, have something, maybe once or twice a year where we are just focusing on, this is how you read the standards, and this is how you understand the report card, and this is how you go on to Q and see all of the things, yada, yada, yada.
And like cheerleader it, like she obviously was cheerleadering it. She really believes in it. Like that's what we need to show our parents too. Not, well, we have to do this, but like, no, this is why we do this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And all the more reason why we want to get our standards set, so that we can actually, I really do anticipate it would be a full semester process at least for us to work with the district to try to do this. And I sort of hate to say this, but I think that with how tight funding is, we may have to fund a project coordinator or some of the district programmers' time, because I believe they only have 2. And so they have some projects set, and we want to get on their agenda or on their appointment calendar as soon as we can.
A project person for report cards, is that what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for creating the report cards for 7th and 8th grade, because it's not just.
And they would want that outside of our 4%.
Yes.
Okay.
For something as large as this, I think that they will. I mean, when I was at Family, we asked them for some time to convert our online system, something similar to what Stephanie was showing you, that they created their own database. And what we wanted to do was have a program written for our database to talk to Q. And at that time, which is, I believe, 5 years ago, we were told that each division was given 2 slots per year. And my job was going to be to convince the Senior Director of Secondary Instruction to use one of his slots for Family Partnerships project. So I don't know how things are now because they're going to seat 2 new school board members and what the process is for the superintendent, because we haven't asked for any really big projects like this. I mean, this is going to be a time-consuming thing for their programmer. I don't know, looking at everything that they have to do, where we would fall in their priority list, and I want to make sure that we can get on that list. And if it costs us a little bit, I think it would be well worth the money. Or we can look at, I don't know, some way of contracting our own and figuring out how to do something similar and have the district agree that we can use that in their report card system. So there's a couple ways to do it. I just want to make sure we do it sooner rather than later. So this could be maybe some summer projects for people.
Definitely. That's what I was thinking too. Did we want to talk on that anymore? Or do we want to talk about who's willing to come give public comment at the school board meeting on Monday?
Yes, do we have any volunteers?
I thought there was only enough room for 2 people to go with you. And then everybody else was calling in, correct?
Right. So it's just 2 slots.
We just want to know
total.
who's calling in.
But
Oh,
right.
okay.
Do we have anyone who would like to be to get signed up to do some telephonic comments for the on a non-action item?
Do you have a suggested amount of people who you think should call in, including the kids, like we had talked before I go and make my suggestions?
I think it would be good to have no more than 3 people. So it's not an action item, and there will be 2 new board members there. So there's going to be a lot of kind of flurry with seating new members and all of that kind of stuff. So if we can get 2 to 3 people to maybe share comments on why this would be good, and the whole goal would be for those 2 to 3 people to not say the same thing. Because every once in a while you have schools that get up there and then they send 10 people and all 10 people talk about the same thing, and it just is a broken record. And what we want to do is kind of keep the idea fresh and share bits and pieces of why we think it would be good, and why we believe families are looking for something like this. And then at least one of those people, if it was a student, I think that would have a huge impact on the board. They like to see kids.
So I don't mind doing it. I don't mind calling in. I was going to suggest, I don't know if Paula is listening or not, but I was going to suggest that Amaya be the student that calls in, because when she reads and does stuff out loud, she reads very confidently and enunciates well and has good volume in her voice. And if it's going to have to be a phone call in, which I think it would be, she would be a good person to do that if she's willing to. And I'm sure we can help her come up with something to say, or maybe they can have a few students kind of collaborate together and come up with something to say, and then Amaya can read it if Paula is willing to have Amaya call in and read it if they don't have hockey or whatever.
Yeah, I don't mind her reading it. I just have to look at her schedule and make sure that I dedicate that time. And also that she has it pre-done and ready to go.
Riley's over here listening and volunteering herself.
Really? That's surprising. Go Riley.
It is surprising.
Well, Vanessa and I will be there in person, but we're not going to be giving any comments or testimony. We'll be available to the board if they have any questions for us. So if we had one parent and two students, and they're all from different families, that probably would look good.
Do you want a teacher to speak or no?
I think that we can probably have a teacher speak at the action item meeting on the
So the
7th.
May
Is it the
17th meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. More people would be better for the second meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just wait then. I'm just asking.
Riley can just be a backup if we want two parents and a student, and Amaya can do it, then Amaya can just do it. But if Amaya can't do it, then Riley could be the backup if we want to do that.
I'm okay either way, and I'm sure Amaya is either way too. And if we ever have to speak again, Amaya can speak. So,
Do we have any boys?
Amy, would Brandon want to do it?
I doubt it. He gets shy when it's people he doesn't know.
Well, that's what I figured. That's why I didn't make him. That's why I didn't suggest him first off. But
Yeah, he's got the projecting thing down, but it's getting actual words to come out would be a struggle.
Even if it was on the phone, so he wouldn't, people wouldn't be staring at him.
I can ask him, but I don't know. He goes back and forth on when he's shy, and I would hate to have him freeze up 2 seconds before he's supposed to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I can text Jennifer and see if Tobin would do it. He's got a pretty good speaking voice as well. But if another parent would rather do it, I'll be glad to not do it. So if Ann or Amy, if you guys really want to talk, I don't want to take it from you.
You can totally have it, Paige. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with you doing it.
I was just curious though, like, do we know already what's on that agenda as far as action items? Because sometimes when there are those big action items, then the little call-ins about different things get drowned out. Or do they separate those out for the call-ins for action items and non-action items? Because I've sat on some school board meetings that are 2.5 hours long, and I'm sure Riley doesn't want to be waiting for 2.5 hours to say something, or any of the other kids. So like, do we put them through that if there's some big action items, or do we have like a second section where it's like, oh, this is non-action item call-ins?
So the non-action items, public testimony are at the beginning of the meetings. And then the action item testimony kind of comes up right before they get to those action items on the agenda. So, we anticipate all of the public comments that we do would be at the beginning. So you don't have to sit through on the phone watching the thing via YouTube Live waiting for your turn. But Vanessa and I will probably be sitting there for a while, or at least until they get to their non-action item issues. And if they have any questions, we'll be there to answer. If they don't, I'm planning on kind of scooting out right after that.
Me too. I'm not sticking around if I don't need to. Do they do non-action before action or action before non-action?
I think that they do non-action before action.
Okay.
And just to let you know, I think that Darrow has, in his presenting it to Dr. Bishop and her cabinet, has supported us in this. And I think preliminary, again, we have Dr. Bishop's support. The only kickback we might have would be maybe from the general public or other charter school programs, because on the last board meeting, both Family and Frontier did have charter waiver requests to add additional students to their enrollment. And both of those were not supported by administration, and they did not get approval by the board. So
But you said those schools were asking, one was asking for 1,000 and one was asking for 500, right?
Family was asking to go from 1,500 to 2,000. And Frontier, I believe, was asking to go from 750 to maybe 1,000.
Okay, so
Right.
a lot more than the 52 we're asking for.
Right, and we have a lot stronger legs to stand on, because they do also have other charter schools that are K through 8. So us going K through 8 wouldn't be unusual. And
Yeah.
If we take 52 students, that's kind of small. Right. And we're not asking for hundreds. So the only kickback would be from other charter schools and saying, well, geez, they're going to increase their enrollment. Why would you let them do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they could see the difference also of hundreds versus 50 and brick and mortar school versus pulling people out of that to homeschool.
Yep, that is totally true too. So, and we didn't complain about Aquarian being on a bond
Exactly.
for their school facilities.
Okay, so Paige, you'll speak. And Paula, you're going to ask Amaya, or check her schedule and ask her.
Yes, I will.
And then do we want another parent this time around? If no one on here wanted to speak, we could maybe ask one of the couple people who called into us in support of the 7th and 8th grade. I remember Prairie Daughtry. Am I saying it right? I'm not asking you. I liked her, and I don't remember who else spoke, but we could ask if they would, if no one else wanted to.
If Daughtry is the one I'm thinking of, she does have a 5th grader.
Yes.
I think she has a 3rd and a 5th grader, so she would be a good one to have as well.
Should I email her and ask her?
Sure. So that'll be good then for Monday.
I think that'll be plenty.
Okay. All right. Anything else we need to go over tonight? Are we all good for the day? Good for the day?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank
If
you all for
anybody
coming.
if anybody can think of any very specific, just little snippet bullet points that you want me to include in my speech, then email it or text it to me. And then I'll help Amaya Maybe I'll pull some of the girl or some of the kids out tomorrow if I can figure out a good time to do it to see if they all want to help me write it for the kids. So Maya has something to read, so she's not writing it herself.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Well, then I'll see you all when I see you. Some of you tomorrow.
Manana.
Bye.